Hi, everyone, and welcome to this workshop on decarbonizing urban mobility made socially responsible. My name is Lara Salinas. I am a design researcher at the University of the Arts London, and I'm also director of the Societal Readiness Assessment dashboard that we will be using and introducing today. It is my pleasure to introduce this workshop created by my colleagues, Maitri, Namita, and Sophia, who, by the way, are an award-winning team according to the Department of Transport. Do you want to say hello?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Maitri. I'm based in London and I'm a service designer and researcher. And I'm very excited to be here. Thanks, Lara. Over to you, Nams.
Hi everyone, my name is Namita. I am a service designer with the London Borough of Hounslow. Like Maitri just said, very excited to be here, and I'll pass over to Sophia.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. I'm a freelance service designer and researcher, currently based in Greece, and I'm very happy to be here too.
Okay. So while I give you a quick overview of the session, we thought it would be nice for you to get to know each other a tiny bit. So if you can please type in the chat something like your name and where are you joining us for, the organization you work with, and something related to decarbonization. We'll have a look, and that will also help us maybe adapt the workshop a tiny bit. And to be honest, I cannot see the chat. So while you do that, I'm going to continue with the presentation, if that's okay. So today's agenda. We are going to be looking at what is societal readiness assessment. That's going to be a quick overview that I'm going to give you. Then it's kind of the real workshop when I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues. And we are going to do two things. I'm going to be emphasizing that. It's like we're going to be assessing green mobility innovations, but the whole point of assessing them is to understand how we can improve them. So then the big part of the workshop is also about devising a plan to improve green mobility innovation. And we will do that together. And then we'll go to a final reflection. So very simple structure. What we hope that you will take away from this hour of working together is that you will understand how to use this free resource that is the Societal Readiness Assessment Dashboard. It's a long phrase. We used to call it SORA, but SORA is now something else, right? So we'll have to rebrand it at some point. It just happened too recently. So that you get to know this free online resource and you can use it in your practice. You understand that what it provides is a framework that you can use to assess and to improve innovations. And these innovations can be products that you have to acquire or procure in a public administration, can be services that you need to design, or can be policies that you need to gather evidence to support them or evaluate, for example. And it's to understand whether these things are fit for society. People are going to like them, they are going to adopt them, and how can we make that happen? And this is a way of also supporting public administration processes such as civic engagement. We can use this framework in civic engagement and consultation, in redesigning a service, in procuring a service, or in evaluating something that already exists. So why do we even need a societal readiness assessment? Well, the thing is that we know, I think we all have experienced that also as users, that innovations fail all the time. And they fail because they don't deliver what they say they're going to deliver, or people just don't like them and we don't like to use them, or they don't feel fair, they don't feel right, or they are not good enough. And that is kind of these are very negative scenarios that sometimes create kind of aversion. So how do we design all of this out? So what we propose is to have a very place-based approach to all these innovations. So I should say that societal readiness assessment has been done by a bunch of incredible people across organizations. So there on the screen, you have some, but not all of them. So this is the work that we are presenting, but that really belongs to many, many other people. And at the moment, we are using the societal readiness assessment within the Clean Futures programs in the Connected Places Catapult, helping innovators to check their innovations in the process of bringing them to market and improve them. As I was saying, there are two sides to this, right? So one is an online assessment that for the purposes of this workshop, we have tweaked and we have embedded in Miro to make it more accessible to all of you, so that you can only use one screen only. And then once you get your assessment, the second part is about improving it. And that's where we're going to spend quite a lot of time today. And whereas the online tool is given to you, how to improve it, it's actually done by design. So that's an opportunity for you to use your design skills that you use every day when working with local government, but using this framework. SORA is made up of 4 different parts. So we're going to be assessing and looking at improving these 4 different parts. So the first one has to do with carbon reduction. We're going to be looking at whether the innovation that we have is aligned with international, national, and local policy objectives on carbon reduction. Does it deliver what it should be delivering, right? And how do we measure that, etc.? How do we demonstrate? Part 2 is about social justice. We need to look beyond the immediate user or the immediate buyer to wider society and whether it's fair and which views and who are we considering when we are designing or procuring or working with this innovation. Part 3 is about the social good, ensuring that we can maximize the positive impact on society and economy and environment, but also that we can identify potential harms and we can design them out at an early stage, or we can see whether they are, too bad to go for it, or what do we do? Basically take an informed decision around that. And the final one is also very important. It's about the capability of the innovation to deliver within larger systems and in a longer time scale. So in 40, 50 years, are we still going to have this innovation around or not? And therefore, what effort or how do we integrate it and how do we go about it? So 3 questions in each of the parts. It's only 12 questions. So usually when you do it online, it all takes about 20 minutes, but we're going to do it in a different way today. And once you do all these questions, what you get is a result in the way of this kind of thermometer, where 1 is really not good, right? And 9 is excellent. It's like you really exceed and consider all of these indicators. Now, we have also on the right-hand side, you can see 3 different stages: planning, development, and implementation. So depending on what you are assessing, you should be tougher or expect a better result, or kind of being halfway when you are in the development stage should be good enough. So that's my introduction about SORA, and now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague.
Okay, so in today's session, you are going to assess and make a plan to improve a green mobility innovation in a group by using the societal readiness assessment in the place-based context that we're going to give you. So first, we will take a few minutes to familiarize ourselves with the town and the innovation. And of course, this information will be available for you to review later, so don't feel like you have to remember everything. The goal of today is for each group to come up with recommended steps, actions, and activities to amplify a benefit or and design out a risk in the areas of the assessment that were mentioned earlier. So the information we are going to give you will be limited, as it is usually the case. We will be giving you a hypothetical place and innovation. And what we mean by recommended steps and actions is how can we make this innovation work in our context. So you can also use this framework to say that this innovation does not work. However, in this scenario, this innovation is almost approved, and we need to make sure that it can work. So let's take an example of an action plan. So in terms of social good, the people that are behind this innovation, have they thought about potential benefits or the misuses of the innovation? Have we engaged enough stakeholders, or do we need to do a stakeholder map to identify more? And what tools do we have as designers that could help us? So we will then move, we will be in the same group, and this assessment will take about 20 minutes. Today we will be assessing a proposal for Electra Commute. So this is an e-bike charging service in the town of Cherry Hill. As a team of designers in Rymanshire Council, we want you to imagine that you have been tasked with assessing and advising on the procurement decisions. So let's go into our context, our place-based context. So Rymanshire is a hilly town. The town center is often bustling with activity and is characterized by the presence of historical landmarks alongside modern structures. And despite its urban elements, Rymanshire has managed to preserve its small town charm and close-knit community spirit. It has a mix of single-family homes and apartment complexes and commercial establishments. So the majority of residents own private vehicles, and there is growing interest in sustainable initiatives among community members. You can use these details to piece together a picture of what life in this town is like. And now my colleague is going to give you some information about the innovation now. Now over to you, Maitri.
Maitri, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thanks, Soph. Just to reiterate, the information that we're giving you today, we appreciate that it's quite a lot. So, and also not so much at the same time, especially with these two contexts, it's limited. So please feel free to challenge it, question it, fill in the gaps with your own imagination at any point in the discourse when you assess the innovations and the actions after that.
And it's also fully fictional.
Yeah, just to reiterate that as well. It is fully fictional. So just to give you an overview of the innovation that we are going to be working with today. So this is a company called Electra Commute, and they have sent over a deck to you as a team of designers in the council as part of their bid that is going to be awarded the contract to. So what you'll do is assess how the innovation fits and how to best make it work in the context of Rymanshire. So Electra Commute is an urban mobility initiative where they have proposed to strategically place e-bike charging stations across Cherry Hill as a way to make sustainable mobility more hassle-free and bring a shift to the sustainable transportation choices for citizens of Cherry Hill. So their objectives are essentially to promote sustainable mobility, eliminate the anxiety that comes with battery range, and encourage the use of electric vehicles more. And they propose to do this by placing charging stations more frequently and improving the infrastructure along the way. And they are asking for like an investment of 2.5 million, which will give the station infrastructure, smart technologies, community engagement programs, and ongoing maintenance. This is also something that they have done elsewhere in Rasford, UK. So they saw an increase in e-bike adoption within the first year by 30%. The project also contributed significantly to carbon reductions as part of Rasford UK's strategies. And they saw that the users indicated an improvement in physical and mental well-being. Great. I will now hand it over to Namita, who is going to give you an overview of the assessment and what we'll be doing in the breakout rooms. Over to you, Nams.
Thank you. Just a second. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare. So I'm going to give you a really quick overview of what the societal readiness assessment looks like. This is on the website, and we'll be dropping you a link so that you can explore this post the workshop as well. And how it works is on the website, you go into assessment. And these are the 4 sections that Lara gave us an overview about. And when you go into the assessment, what we first have is a page that helps you contextualize the project and the space that you're working in. So you can give it a title, you can describe what exactly you're assessing. And this page is especially useful for when you want to come back and measure your progress to see whether you've made any improvements, what you want to maybe then focus on. So we're going to skip this for the sake of this workshop. And then what you do move on to is a set of questions. We have a total of 12 questions across the 4 sections. So you answer each of these. You basically measure the assessment against the questions. And if at all you're unclear on what the answers may be, low or I can't tell is a good option to go for, because then we're building that scope for improvement. So we work through all 12 questions in this way. And sorry, the tab's in the way again. And what you get at the end of your 12 questions. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So what you get at the end of the 12 questions is basically a score. So this was the scale that Lara had discussed earlier. You get told what stage you are basically in, but then you also get a section-wise look at where we may want to go for improvement. And I'm so sorry about this, but I'm going to stop sharing and go back. There we go. Great. So for the workshop, what we're going to be doing is we'll be looking at the set of questions. We basically it's all the same thing. We brought them onto one board for you, so you don't have to switch between screens and struggle the way you just saw me. So we'll be looking at the questions. How we're going to answer this is we're going to drag the blue button over to whatever answer we feel is right. One of the most important and beautiful aspects of this process really is that there's going to be a lot of discussion around the questions and whether how this assessment fits into the place that we're looking at. So this conversation can be captured in this board. You can use the Post-its. If anyone's unfamiliar with Miro, these are your stickies. You can drag them around, you can type into that. And that's how we'll be doing the assessment. Once I stop sharing, we can go back, take a look at how many participants we have, and then take a call on how to do the workshop. We've got the 4 major areas, and we'll also be coming back together to reflect and share our key takeaways from the session. I'm just going to stop sharing now. And can we have a look at how many participants we have? We've got 1, 2.
We've got 5 participants, so
I think we can go with 2 groups if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
happy to go with one as well. That's up to you.
Shall we do 2 groups?
Sure. I think one also sounds fine because then it'll be more of a together discussion if that's okay with
Yeah,
everyone.
okay, we do
that
one.
works.
Yeah.
That works.
Great. Cool. So
then while you share the screen, I'll say that we changed the structure of what we had planned for breakup rooms slightly. So I'd say we do the full assessment together quickly, and then together, well, first we digest the information, then we do the assessment, and then we decide on one area or maybe 2 areas, and then we're going to break up rooms if need be.
Mhm.
And we
Sounds
take it from there. Plenty of time. We should have plenty of time.
The link to Miro has just been pasted in the chat. So if you could all come onto the board.
Yes, so everyone should be here.
Is everyone seeing part 1 carbon reduction there?
Okay, so this is mine, so I'm going to do this, right?
Yeah.
We will have to go back and forth to the information we have. And because we're a very small group, if you're not in a noisy environment and you want to unmute yourself, that's how this works best, because it's really a conversation, right? So what this is about is we have an innovation that is about electric charging bikes, right? The same way you charge cars right now. And what we need to do here is to assess to what extent that is going to help us decarbonize, right? So the framework is a bit general, and we need to make it localized with the knowledge we have about this place. So the first question is, how informed is the project about carbon budgets? So how much is this innovation talking about carbon budgets? And what I would like you to do is to actually go to the information and tell me whether you think it is or whether it is not, and talk about it.
You'll find the information placed on the left of the board that Lara is in, just a little lower than that. Yeah.
Okay, and I see the moving arrows are going from the information to the questions now. So on the board, I'm a tiny bit on the right-hand side, where we have unknowns to explore, positives to amplify, or negatives to design out. And right now, I feel like maybe we don't have enough information about the carbon targets or carbon benefits. So what do you think about it?
Do we select from these 3 options?
Yes, so but we should talk and agree if
Mhm.
it's high, medium, or low, and
Mhm.
why. And then we'll record that discussion of why, and that will lead us to identify actions on how to improve it.
Mhm.
So it's definitely not high, right?
Definitely. I think, in fact, it is on the lower side.
Why?
So how informed is the project about carbon budgets? There is not much information here in the information that is shared. So there's information about demographics and the area.
Yeah, so there seems to be 2 bits. There's one which is information about the place itself, and the
Mhm.
other bit which is just like a corporate deck that the company has provided, right? The Electra commute bit.
And in that corporate deck, what's missing? So what do we need to know?
Right. So there's
that's-
this information about 2.5 million estimated as an investment. That budget is there. But it needs to be defined further, no?
So for example,
So it talks, sorry, go on.
No, you go on.
No, so it says something about the project that in the past that it contributed to a significant reduction in carbon emissions.
Mhm.
So it did something in the past, but it hasn't mentioned what it would do for this town. And it doesn't talk about data like what was the amount of reduction. So yeah, I mean, so it kind of alludes to
Yeah.
In fact,
So
sorry,
they
yeah.
say there are carbon reductions, but they don't say how, what, they don't give us a figure,
Yeah.
right? So that makes us feel like what I'm writing here is like we need more quantitative and specific information about the emission of carbon reductions.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
So lower, I
Yeah,
can't
Naga, go
tell.
on, please.
Hi, I'm Naga. Hi, everyone. So I think I feel that the systemic aspect is not the effect this project could have on the system on a kind of macro level is not really reflected properly there. Having those charging stations 200 feet apart, like what effects it might be having. It's not really covering, from all directions. Yes, of course, we've got the benefits, but what else is happening around it, and how could we tackle those problems or risks associated with it?
Absolutely. So I'm writing here that the whole system is not explored, right? And then to be a bit more granular or more specific about it, it's like I'm thinking, it's like, okay, the batteries are actually not very friendly for the environment. So is that something that we should be taking into account? Or, where do we stand there? And they don't say, right? So I'm gonna put kind of a question mark of something we have to explore that is about the use of battery.
Would you say the supply chain of it? I don't know what that.
Okay.
What is it called? Yeah, so kind of end to end. Where is it coming and where is it going? Aspect of it.
Circularity of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. So here, kind of quite immediately, we see that the sales pitch that they are given to us is like not good enough, right? It's like, well, maybe, but in this end, you are not really telling me the benefits in meeting my production, right? So we need to be talking in other terms. But it might be that there are other benefits. So do you want to take over one of my, I don't know who's next, is I think you're next, right? I'm still, sorry, no, I have more questions. Apologies. I'll go quickly. So how the second question is, how high does decarbonization, or shall we take only one question per?
We can go through the section, like your section, then.
Okay, I'll go very quickly then.
I'll go through mine very quickly, and maybe we can go to a reflection of just the two.
Okay, because it's just for you to get the point of how Sora works, right? We don't have to do the full assessment. So the next question would be, okay, how high does decarbonization rank as a priority in this particular product that we are assessing? So just quickly.
Yeah, I was looking at the corporate brochure again. I think it's very, there is a paradox here. Like, for example, it is talking about e-charging stations. That's what we're proposing. But it is again about creating, producing more, and which is another carbon footprint. You're talking about electric, the batteries that go into electric bikes. Why aren't we looking at other ways in terms of, non-electric bikes or pedestrian-free travel? If it is, say pedestrian-friendly streets, then why replace it with e-bikes? That is what
Amazing.
troubling me.
Absolutely. So then we're saying, well, it looks like you are just selling technology, right? Because here there are many different alternatives that are actually lower carbon in terms of mobility. So we don't know enough, right? So like let's okay, cool. Megana?
Hello, it's Max and Best here. So yeah, we were just discussing, and to build on the previous point, it seems to us it's more of like they are embracing this new chic technology, the e-scooter, without thinking about what sort of things that even just people without the e-scooter or just the normal people in everyday life we can do. So it's more of like looking fancy. I'm not sure if I'm being negative, but it's more of like, oh, here's the budget. This is looking fancy. So see, this is the increasement of the usage without addressing the whole other things like, oh, there are many other in terms of the understanding in maybe other parts of the, like, it's, for example, like education or like community gathering around to do something, you know, just like more simple aspects of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other dimensions that we're going to explore in a moment should talk a bit about that. So that's also to give us the sense that it's not black and white, right? So it might be very weak on this end, but actually might have other benefits in other areas. And even if we decide not to procure it, we can learn from this exercise to then look for other solutions that might work for us based on what is good about this and bad, right? So that's part of the conversation. So the final one, I'm just going to answer it quickly, right? Is like how much actual, reduction in terms of UN is like, well, we don't really know. So I'm going to click low and I'm going to hand it over to M. Do you want me to continue sharing my screen or do you want to take over?
I can take over, if that's okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing that
Please, yeah.
struck me is that it's talking about car owners in the town, whereas I mean it's just to follow up to the infrastructure and having a technological product in the city. Is that why is it only for bikes? Maybe it should be for cars as well if people are already using vehicles, for example. So yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that really brings me very nicely into the next section of this. So it was great to hear that all of you are thinking about the users, and in this case, oh sorry, Naga, I can see your hand up.
A very quick question. So far, like we've been discussing only about the brochure, which is like a sales brochure, but not specifically, it's not like a proposal specific for Ryan. Is it Ryanshire?
Ramanshire, yes.
It's just a brochure, it's a sales brochure that someone perhaps just picked it up, right? At what point would we start, just curious, at what point would we start discussing, the information that you've given about this particular place and connect that? Are we going to do that as a part of?
Yeah, so in terms of carbon reduction, what we should be looking at here would be what are our targets? Do we have decarbonization of journeys or certain type of journeys as a priority? Because that might not be a priority, right? So we don't know that either. If it's not a priority, maybe we shouldn't even be having this conversation, right? So, but if we have a mandate to actually change mobility, then we need to be exploring different mobility options. That's in terms of all the kind of very crude emissions. But if we go to where M is and we talk about social justice, then is when we are going to start having conversations about, but what segments of the population are we targeting here? What is our population here? How do people move in our city? Do we know enough about that? And I think that's a conversation that that you, Naga, are hoping for, right?
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Exactly. So it's really great that we're already starting to think of the innovation in terms of who's going to be using it and where it is going to be implemented. So this section essentially brings us exactly to that. It's trying to understand how fair the innovation or an initiative is for the given place-based context, right? So in this case, we look at the questions one by one, and I guess the Ramanshire would take more priority in this case than the innovation itself. So just to go over the first question, how comprehensively are stakeholders who might be affected positively or negatively considered? What do you think this would be? Where would you place the blue dot on this?
I think in the middle, that's what I would suggest. because I'm looking at this graph which talks about the age group of the percentage of residents, and our maximum age group is from 25 to 65, which is, I think that's like, if you ask me, I would love to have an e-bike and, you know, go longer distances if I can, and if I could avoid a car travel, I would do that. So maybe it will help that aging population to be more mobile. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think that it has an element of potentially agree. I also wonder whether charging will actually make me go in longer journeys. And what does it mean? How long does it take to charge? I'm a bit unsure about what charging means. I don't know enough about getting on an e-bike and doing some distances or whatever. But the principle of what you are saying of encouraging people to take up bikes and the segment of the population that we have, I think that you're right. I think that's spot on.
Yeah, we have to also consider the charging time, and definitely if the charging times are more, then it discourages people.
So I know this is all fictitious stuff, but I'm just thinking about the hilly topography, the area that we're talking about. The fact that, at least from the photograph, it sounds like they have like narrow alleyways or narrow streets and things. So where was I going with this? I'm just thinking like how much, like, yes, I think it makes sense to ride e-bikes more, but definitely need e-bikes because it's hilly and you want to encourage different sections of the population to do it. But I'm also thinking about, just from my personal experience, we have a few e-bikes and we charge it every 2 days or so. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's like the biggest hurdle. Charging an e-bike is, it's more about it. It's if they're providing these bikes themselves, that, you know, like the, how do you call it? What's the, like, you know, where a service actually provides the bikes themselves, like you could just do the last mile journey between public transport. So if it's only about charging stations, then I would imagine people might just charge them at home. Or am I getting this wrong?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, that we have to think of all the sides of it, all the sort of different use cases there might be. I see 3 hands up. I'm gonna go with Naga first, maybe. Yeah. You're on mute, Naga.
Yeah, I think it was Yash who raised her hand first.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Yash, go for it.
No, it's good, because you don't see the numbers there.
Yeah, I don't. I am seeing like 3.
Thanks, Naga. Thanks, Em. Yeah, I agree with what was just said. I think just adding on Ryman Shire's, you know, the data that we have, there's a lot of data, a lot of insight around the community, and that it's, you know, it has this close-knit community spirit. It's a busy town center, so likely there's a lot of pedestrians and lesser cars. Potentially e-scooters could be really useful there. And we also have data on the demographics, which I feel like Electra Commute's pitch could have spoken to a lot more if that would have made it a lot stronger, but it doesn't really have much information about that aspect. I just think it's missing. I don't know if I'm missing something here, but just from what I see, it seems like it could talk a lot more to the population's relatively small as well. You have a big majority of the population between 35 to 49. It's a close-knit community, single-family homes, all of that. So I think there's a lot of potential which could have been covered, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yash. I'm just jumping in for a minute. How do we feel about doing one more question from each of the sections so that we get like a holistic view and then we can come
Then
back around and pick an action? Does that sound all right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Did you want to
the
come
meanwhile-
in, Naga?
Yes.
Was it a burning question or comment
sorry.
about this?
So just one point very quickly is about the thing that was mentioned, that they managed to preserve its Rymanshire managed to preserve its small town charm, and if you, so obviously like the whole the evolution of the modernization, they'd still managed to preserve. So considering that bit, how do we still preserve that small town charm when we have so many charging stations across the town? So that, I think that just wanted to kind of highlight that point. That's it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And once again, you've done it. You've anticipated the next part, which is 3, that is about social good. And then we look at the broader social, environmental, economical, but also we should have said cultural, which we haven't there, which is, well, this is not us. This is not who we are. So sorry, Namita, just to hand it over to you. Or to Sophia, sorry.
Yes, so if we go to social good is about the contribution to the social, environmental and economic outcomes. I've populated the canvas to what we were saying before, because everything connects really. So if we go to the first question, so projects inevitably have unexpected societal ripple effects, as we are discussing. Decarbonizing transport can bring co-benefits such as clean air and well-being, but also negative anticipated consequences. For example, increased home working can intensify worker surveillance. So to what degree are co-benefits and anticipated consequences ethical or wider societal implications considered? What do you think about this? We have addressed it a bit. So here we were talking about the batteries that are polluting more, and why don't we replace pedestrian-friendly streets? Why do we? Sorry, and who is it affecting really? And that we have maybe less information about who benefits and who is affected. What are your thoughts about this?
Also, just to quickly check, I'm going by what you're saying, so but do you want the control on screen share?
Yes, I can. Yes, thank you. Does anybody have
Meg, there's a hand up.
Yeah, we were thinking that that's one aspect that they mentioned at the very end, that they did the survey about improvement in physical and mental well-being, which, I mean, although it's quite a small part, but that is something that they're also looking into, but we don't know like the details of it. But I think it applies into this. So
yes. That's a good point.
Yeah, so they kind of have touched on it, but again, they don't say how, which is what would be important, because as to how they're actually thinking about doing that. Yeah.
I'm looking at the time, and maybe I suggest we move to the final section so that you have a full overview of how to use the tool.
Thank you. Sophia, would you mind continuing sharing for me? If you could
Yes,
go down.
of course.
Great. So we come to the 4th part, and I'm just going to add here that it's really nice that we got to do the entire assessment all together. So we are now looking at a fit for a decarbonized society. I'll just kick us off with the first question. How does this project fit with social practices of low carbon lifestyles? So the innovation that we are discussing, do we think that it puts the onus on individuals and policymakers to make that change? Do we think that the project in itself encourages systemic change? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
So I thought it was very nice what someone said about people using more bikes, right? It's like, okay, it really encourages a part of the population to do it in a hilly place, whatever. I am just a bit concerned about just charging batteries without really understanding the lifespan of the batteries and what knock-on effects we might be having on. I don't want to be guilty for people buying a lot of e-bikes and then, I don't know, it not working or whatever, and then those e-bikes are actually quite heavy in terms of the carbon footprint. So I think it's good in terms of maybe changing a behavior in a very short time, but definitely not in the long run. And if it was in the long run, then we should be looking more at batteries and what the bikes are made of as well, and not all. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, just to add on. Oh, sorry, I just interrupted. No, okay. Yeah, I'm just going to quickly go on that. Right, just to add on to what Lara was saying, that totally makes sense, because if it was something that you're looking at long term, you have to look at the disposal and the manufacturing, and there are a lot more other systemic things that need to be considered as to where you source all your material from. So it's not just one tiny thing. But yeah, I agree with what Lara was just saying.
I also just want to highlight here, Vinishri had mentioned in an earlier section that if we already have pedestrian-friendly streets, is this maybe even the right having so many charging points, and also building on what Naga said about continuing to have that cultural impact? Would this be the right intervention? Do we need so many charging points? Are we looking at the social practices that's already practiced in the town? Also something to think about. I'll just put that down. But Lara, back to you, because we have about 7 minutes to wrap up.
Sure. Okay.
I have another fundamental question.
Please.
Why bike charging stations in the first place? What led to this? Because, so just as an e-bike user myself, as I said, like we charge it every 3 days and we ride on hills and so on. We charge it at home. It doesn't take very long to charge. So if I'm going into town or moving around, it's not like I'm doing, in a car, like going several miles, and I would need like charging stations. If it's a small town, why do we even need charging stations in town is probably a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, right, at what an innovator may come up with, thinking that the niche is bigger.
Can I just quickly add to that, we think of the town as the town, but it might as well be like a passing situation for somebody, and it might be something that comes in handy, in an emergency situation. So I think it's important to think of the society that we're trying to implement it in, but also think of its wider implications.
And the reality for picking something like this is that it doesn't exist. It means that we don't have a formed opinion, and for the purposes of the activity kind of work better because it was like totally neutral. We already have an opinion maybe about e-scooters, right, or other things, but this is like, okay, let's see. And the whole point was, so we haven't done the full assessment as it should be, but you have a taste, a sense of what we are looking at and how you can have this conversation very structured with different colleagues that have different expertise. So you can bring someone from planning, someone from engagement. You can bring even the innovator that's trying to, or the company that's trying to sell it to you to answer the questions on the spot. And what is really helping is once you have an understanding of the 4 dimensions, is like in 20 minutes, you really get it. You don't have to go in circles. Like, is it good or not? In 20 minutes, you really have a very good understanding of whether that is worth talking about and investing some more time. But not only that, the second part that we haven't really got to is, okay, so do we have one very specific point that we want? And in this case, I would say it could be that we are totally reframing the question and saying we want to introduce more bikes for this population, but maybe it's not this. So what other services about bikes? And then what do as designers can do to continue the conversation in that direction? So in this case, based on we want bikes, but this is not for us, maybe I would go, well, let's do a benchmark of different services in that can promote bikes. Let's look at other cities that are nearby with a similar weather, similar density, similar whatever, and how have they solved the problem, if at all? What are the services that may work for them? So that's kind of the whole point of having that very structured and quick conversation with many different stakeholders that might not agree, but this allows you to focus and get it done very quickly. That was me. Any final remarks, you guys, or any final points from you in the audience? It's like woman panel. And tomorrow is Women's Day, so well done us.
No, this has been great. Thank you so much. I would love to go and look at the actual assessment and the website and try the full assessment for myself and check it. So thank you so much.
And did you all design this together?
Yeah, so this comes, we only have a couple of minutes, so we're going to continue in track 4 in the Slack channel for half an hour. We're happy to talk there. But this comes from research done, led by Lancaster University and the sociology team as helping innovators get these innovations done. And then they continued working with many different organizations, public, private. And then what we did as service designers was to repackage all of these research that was more theoretical and difficult to use into something that in 20 minutes, a half an hour, really gets you into action, which is the whole point, that these decisions are so complicated that they lead to not acting on them, right? And then hours and hours of meeting, not really getting anywhere. So that's the point here.
Great, thank you.
So we say bye-bye.